by me to me by a party members.
Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm back today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
It is going
All right, so
crazy.
last night was supposed to be our last freeze. So I don't think we're supposed to have any more
Freezes?
below freezing
Oh,
temperature,
well,
at least not for a few weeks.
tell that to the crab apples that are all blooming here. Wow, it's
Yeah,
all
well,
over the place.
yeah. So maybe we'll actually head into summer or
Yeah.
something, warmer
Well,
weather, anyways.
yeah. It's been nice. I've been able to get out and walk, so I'm glad
We
for that.
we had the light snow winter where it didn't snow until January.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so
things
that
are
means
changing. I don't know if you noticed, but the polar vortex slipped, and it has normally it's sort of that whirlwind of high altitude winds circling above the Arctic cold. It has changed so much that it actually here I think it was a week, well, probably about 3 weeks ago now, actually dropped from the Arctic and slowly drifted towards Europe and even reversed the wind. Although that's supposed to happen, that does happen apparently periodically, but this was apparently several weeks earlier. So I don't know. Things are interesting, that's for sure.
Well, the good thing is we're not, because there wasn't as much snow this winter, we're not going to have any spring floods.
Well, that's a positive way to look at it, but then go talk to the people in the Tennessee Valley and where that trough hang in there, and they got all kinds of flooding apparently. So
Yeah, I
we
guess it just
didn't.
depends on
I
where you're
mean,
at, right?
it's just all where you at because it looks like the tornado belt that you and I have, or at least I'm familiar with, is slowly drifted uh, to the
Yep.
east, which is a good thing, I guess. But yeah, things are changing.
All right,
So
so Bill, I sent you an article about this big Shell station, and apparently you got some more stories on that um, as well. So this Shell station has opened in China with 258 fast charging stalls.
yeah, this is outside the airport of Shenzhen.
258 fast
158
charging stalls.
fast charging stations.
This
Yeah.
is probably the future of things to come, but and I don't know if this is an actual picture or this is AI generated,
No, I'm
but
pretty sure that's an actual picture.
I mean they
It
look
pretty
like you
well
know
it pretty well dovetails with other photographs that I've come across on this. So no, I don't think it. Now
there's
that
no cars
airliner in the
missing a wheel
background.
or anything weird like that.
No, I don't see people with three fingers, or that
Right,
kind of
people with three
stuff.
fingers, you know.
The jet in the background taking off, that was a really opportune photograph if that's the case. But then it's next to a major Chinese airport, so you'd expect, traffic in and out of there.
The energy company, this is Shell now, is experimenting with converting gas stations to EV charging stations, complete with solar cells on canopies. So these are solar cells up here
Yep,
that look like they're just sunscreens
yep,
um, for extra power generation. Some efforts underway in the U.S. to bring large charging plazas with dozens of connectors to the U.S. East Coast, where projects have yet to come online. Now, I don't see any batteries in this picture, but I have to assume that somewhere on the edge of this property, there's some massive battery storage
yeah,
to help
probably,
stabilize the
yeah,
grid.
yeah, probably.
Yes, and
Now,
for
are
those of you,
those? Yeah, because that's an airport. I'm wondering, are those all just short-term charging sessions, or they also doubling up as a airport parking lot? I mean, you and I, we fly out of Epley here, and you see all of these cars parked in these parking lots to the north of the field, and then on the field, and south of the field. And I keep wondering, wow, that would be nice if I could take my car down there, and while I'm gone, have it not all the time charged, but maybe kept topped off. So when I get home, it's in good shape. I don't know, but yeah, I'm guessing these are all probably short term, come in, recharge.
well,
Even if
think
the
about
car's been
this. you could certainly take those car parks and have these canopy solar in a lot of places. I don't know that that's
Sure.
such a big thing necessarily here in Nebraska, but it would be a big thing in Texas, for instance, because your car is just roasting
And
in the
and Cal,
summer sun in
yeah,
Texas.
and Southern California,
Yeah,
you know,
Arizona, things like that.
Phoenix, yeah, places like that where you've got a lot of sunlight that bears down on it and produces a lot of heat. So yeah, one of the things
Now,
I'm really interested in, just talking about solar and canopies, is the growth of agrovolta or
mhm.
agrivolt. So anyway, the idea is that you put these solar panels, but you raise them above the ground high enough where you can do things with the ground underneath. And so the latest thing is raising sheep, is putting grass in there and then just grazing sheep underneath it. And there's been other things they've done with it, but there's some really cool things that can be done under those solar panels that make extra use of that land and the sunlight. So
so this charging station, a Shell charging station, is serving 3,300 EVs every 24-hour period.
every 24 hours, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that's almost 150 an hour. Now, you think about it, at a gas station, a really busy gas station might do more than that. Obviously, you're at a charging station for a lot longer under current technology than, you would if you were just filling up with gas. But still, it's just hard to fathom. That's a lot of EVs. Now, it's also hard to comprehend how many more EVs there are in China than
Oh
there are
yeah,
in the
they
United
just
States.
yeah. It's
I
like
mean,
they
it's
are
not even
no
close.
question who's the leader in the deployment of electric vehicles. China
Um,
pales us.
yeah, they have a driver's lounge, vending machines, a cafe, a convenience store. I'm assuming they also have some pull through stalls. But it this are I was thinking on the other article I had sent you, it mentioned that they had some pull through stalls as well, as opposed to just
Ah, yeah, I didn't see that,
the
so
the single
possibly.
parking stalls. There's a company called Revel has a 60 stall station planned for the town of Maspeth, and a 30 stall station planned for the Bronx
Oh, here in the U. Well,
in the US.
Maspeth,
So
where's that?
Maspeth is either New York or Massachusetts or something like that. Electrify America is the process of building stations to feature up to 20 DC fast chargers in addition to a small convenience store. The first ones are planned for Brooklyn and Manhattan, in addition to cities on the West Coast.
I
Yeah, but
wonder
that's
where they're
still
putting.
not anywhere near the
Oh
size
no,
of one in Shenzhen.
near what? What is? Well, yeah, 258. That's a considerable number. So
Shell did convert a gas station in London from gas to 9 fast chargers,
well, good for
which,
them.
yeah, let's see.
That's a step in the right direction.
It is. And we get so many people saying that EVs are going away. I still see people putting the EVs are a fad that's going away and
Oh
all
hell
that. And it's
no,
like, wow,
ain't happening, buddy. Sorry.
yeah,
I don't
it's
know
too
what you're
late for that.
smoking, but you're not smoking the right weed here.
Yeah, I just always wonder how people still think that,
Yeah.
but I guess, yeah, like I said, I tell a lot of people what they believe was true 5 to 10 years ago, and they're still holding on to information that's 5 to 10 years old,
Yeah. Well,
and the
that's the way we are
industry
as
has changed so
humans.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, part of that, what is it, Kubler-Ross and the, was it 5 stages of dying? The first one is denial. I mean, gasoline. It's gonna take a while. It's probably gonna take several generations before this happens. But reliance on petroleum and petroleum burning projects are going away, at least in the terms of the private American automobile or the automobile specifically. They're going away, and people have built careers and love, around that, and they just love the smell of gasoline in the morning, kind of a thing, which I hate the smell of the stuff. But, it's that's us humans. It'll take a while, but
Bill, did
it'll
you ever
happen.
watch the movie Avatar?
Oh, of course. Yeah, one of my
Okay.
favorites.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, the concept of becoming a blue person, right? A tall blueberry or whatever they called them. All right.
Oh, I forget what the name was. Yeah, these were people that had, what was it now? They're so hard to kill because they have, what, Kevlar in their, as part of their bone structure or something like that. Yeah. And then there's this. Yeah.
Yes. So this is,
Corleo.
I'm waiting to see it go down the mountain like a goat.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Corleo.
never mind. There it goes. The
Well,
Core Leo by
yeah.
Kawasaki. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much of this is AI and how much
It
of
is
this is,
all, it is, I can assure you, it is all AI. That,
okay.
the thing that they put on stage doesn't move. Now, I think it has, can kind of move around and flex a little bit, but it can't do this, right? This is all AI crap.
Be
Now,
like a goat.
the question here is what's propelling it? Because
Well,
nobody has got that story right, as far as I can tell.
well, at first I thought I saw it was supposed to be a hydrogen powered.
Corleo.
Yeah, yeah. Core Leo. So I mean, it's really an interesting idea, and it shows that Kawasaki is definitely thinking out of the box. Of course, they do motorcycles. We've got a Kawasaki plant down in Lincoln that I think does something with trains. I believe I don't. Everybody correct me on that. I never was quite sure what they were building in Lincoln, but we have one here in Lincoln, and then of course they're into robotics, and this is a perfect blend of that. So somebody came up with an idea rather than building another motorcycle to, dirt bike kind of a thing. Let's build something straight out of Avatar, right? It's straight out of
Yep.
science fiction. But this
Yeah.
thing,
So key
it
design
doesn't.
features include rubber split hooves
Right.
equipped with sensors to adapt to diverse terrains, making sure stability and
Like
balance.
deer and mountain goats. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Enhanced traction and grip on surfaces such as gravel, wet grass, and uneven rocks. These features allow the Core Leo to maintain agility and balance even in the most challenging environments, making it a potential solution for tasks requiring mobility and rugged or unpredictable technologies. It's
Yeah.
powered by a 150cc hydrogen
Yeah.
engine, which
Yeah.
generates electricity to drive its four robotic legs.
Let's talk about that because I keep coming across that. And I think, first of all, to my knowledge, and my knowledge is limited, I'm not an engineer, but to my knowledge, you do not measure fuel cell. I don't want to call it an engine. It's not really an engine. It's just a device. But anyway, fuel cell devices are not measured in cc's. Internal combustion engines, the size of the internal cylinder walls, right, that can, are measured in cc's. So the
Mhm.
question is hydrogen powered, which means if it's cc's, then it's an internal combustion engine, a small motorcycle engine that they've converted to run off of hydrogen. It is not a fuel cell. So the question then becomes is what kind of a vehicle is this? And so I've run this through two different AIs. I said, okay, what am I looking at here? What is this? And they say what you're looking at is a series hybrid where the internal combustion engine spins a generator that feeds the voltage to a battery that then powers the electrical, I can't call them hydraulics, the electrical actuators, maybe is the best way to describe it, on this vehicle. And it should be noted that this thing doesn't move. It is a concept. None of what you saw in that video is real, has ever happened, and whether it will happen or not is yet to be seen. I mean, obviously, Boston Dynamics has done some really cool thing. In fact, we actually had one of those at this STEM Day 2 weekends ago, we actually had one of the Boston robotic dogs, I guess for want of a better term, here, and it attracted a fair amount of attention to to see it out there doing its stuff. But this thing, it's interesting. Whether it will ever progress beyond the static concept model that we're seeing there, is yet to be seen.
Well, Bill, the car was the answer to the horse crap problem of the late 1800s. Okay. So now we go back to the horse with clean energy, right?
Yeah, well, why not replace your car with a robotic horse?
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
In
that'd be
fact,
all.
actually, that's already been done. I think, if my memory serves, a guy out in the Bay Area actually built an electrically powered horse somewhere around the San Jose area. If anybody can recall that, maybe make a note of it down in the comments of the video. But I think this has been done already. If my memory serves, it's been 15, 20 years ago, but yeah.
If I pick one up for the grandkids, it's going to have a unicorn horn on it.
Oh, sure. I mean, that makes sense. Although now, if you go to, if you have automotive safety issues, they may not want a pointy thing sticking out the nose of the vehicle, right?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, well, that's just kind of my thing.
This is why they took hood ornaments off of cars. Because those things were, when people got hit by cars, they were doing some serious damage to the person that got hit, beyond just being, bones crushed and organs, pressed and things like that. So that's why
I didn't ever realize that was why they got rid of the hood ornaments. I figured it was because people were vandalizing them or something.
Well, yeah, I'm sure that's a problem, but they took them up because of safety reasons.
All right. So, anyways, we covered the robot horse. All right, let's talk about this video with Elon Musk versus Eberhard.
So, I have not, I was totally unaware of this thing. And then over the weekend, this popped up on one of my YouTube feeds, and I thought, well, what's this, right? So, it's a two-part documentary by a guy that does other similar documentaries, highly skeptical of Elon Musk. This is not the only one he's done. He's done a series of these things. But anyway, this was the one that goes back to a lawsuit that was filed by Martin Eberhard against Elon Musk and the board of directors that Musk eventually, replaced the original board with, and they were very, willing to do what Elon wants. And I'll tell you what, for me, personally, how you might view it or other people might view it, for me it was an eye opener because it really lays bare in a court document what what Musk did to Eberhard and what he continues to do. This is pattern. This not a one-off. This is a pattern of how this guy, not Eberhard, but how Musk does business, and it's a very revealing look at the man. So I'm not going to say any more than that, but I would certainly encourage people. It's currently the lead story on my editor's choice. You can follow the links. They're both, the videos are, I think the first one's 40 minutes and the second one is 30 minutes. But it just goes through the court filing, and the question, of course, is that, Eberhard had a very strong case against Musk. Why didn't he pursue it? Why did they settle this thing out of court? And that's a reflection of as much of the character of Martin Eberhard as it is the persuasiveness and clout of Elon Musk. So anyway, I won't say any more than that. I just encourage people, make your own decision on what you think is going on there. I personally It's a huge disappointment, and but also explains a lot of the stuff that's going on right now, where you have literally tens of thousands of people getting together over the weekend. Some estimates in the millions total worldwide, protesting the Trump tariffs and the actions, of Elon Musk. So leave it to you. Watch it. Comment. Let me know what you think. Is it valid commentary, or is a lot of it just made up? I don't know. I do know, because as I pointed out, to Dave earlier, I got confirmation of the validity of this this lawsuit, from a gentleman who was there and knows Martin intimately. So, yeah, if you want another view of Elon Musk, or one that reinforces your current view, you might want to check this out. So,
All right. All right. Well, Bill, we're going to move on to what's going on in France and Germany with our favorite topic,
here we
hydrogen.
go. Hydrogen, yeah.
Yeah.
Hydrogen, from a hydrogen horse to
And I know when people
hydrogen
think
trucks.
that Bill and I are anti-hydrogen. It's just, as I say a lot of times, when you're trying to follow the money, people try to claim that EVs are too expensive, they're only for the rich, or all this, and that's really changed, right? I mean, there's more modest EVs out there, especially overseas, but there's starting to be some in the United States now too.
Yeah.
But hydrogen, we were figuring out the math, and generally hydrogen as a fuel is about 16 or 17 times more expensive than electricity. And the economics just don't make sense. No. It's almost, 3 to 6 times as expensive as gasoline in terms of, moving your vehicle. And so from an economic perspective, people are saying, well, you're just going to be able to put water in the car and then you're going to be able to just split it. And it's like, well, it just doesn't quite.
Where does the energy come from to split it? That's the question, right?
Yeah, and that's where the problem keeps coming up. There's all of these other things that go into it. That
I have even a better idea. Just go around and collect aluminum cans from the street, right? Mm-hmm. And you just find a way to pulverize those and turn them into a powder, which of course takes energy, and then you just add water. And you know what happens? It makes hydrogen. And you can burn the hydrogen. This was actually done, it's been almost 30 years ago now, where they were taking aluminum, and you can use aluminum as a hydrogen. Now, I don't think it's just water. I think there's some other catalysts and things that you put with it, but you put that, and that aluminum gives off hydrogen, and you can burn the hydrogen to run the vehicle. In fact, the one that did this was a company that they were doing, I think, electric bicycles, and they were using aluminum to power the electric bicycle. So, yeah. So back to the Back to the Future, right, where Doc Brown takes and puts all kinds of trash in the back of the.
Well, we've done these stories about how you could build a solar-powered ship that would collect hydrogen, and they would sail back to the port autonomously, and it'll have manufactured hydrogen on the water from the power of the sails, and
it was a turbine underneath the thing. So as the thing is moving through the water, it's spinning a turbine, right? And that turbine then is spinning a generator that generates electricity. And somehow, now I don't know how they're distilling the water, because I think you'd have to have fairly pure water to electrolyze. I don't know whether you can take seawater or not, although having the salt in it might improve the electrolysis process. So again, not a scientist. My degree is in theology of all the crazy things. So, if you know better, again, comment downstairs and downstairs.
Yeah, but we figured that it would improve the economics of hydrogen from being 16 times more expensive
Yeah,
to more like only 8 times more expensive.
right. Some
You
crazy
know,
thing.
and it still didn't bring it down even to
No,
parity with gasoline.
right.
You know, and yeah, and that was one of the better things we've seen, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it really seemed like it was using wind and solar to make hydrogen, and it's just that the boats cost so damn much.
yeah.
The math still didn't
Exactly.
work.
Yeah, yeah. So coming back to Deutschland and Franzose, or France, they have decided that putting our efforts and money and funding and things into hydrogen for a transportation energy source. It's not a fuel. Natural gas or high, crude oil and things. That's a fuel. Ethanol, I guess, is a fuel, but hydrogen's not a fuel. It's an energy carrier.
You know,
And
what's
putting it
funny.
into that, it doesn't make sense.
I was looking at a Clean Technica article on the topic, and they said the Germans and the French didn't fall for the hydrogen fantasy. Well, I mean, I think there's some good
Well,
ideas in
yes,
hydrogen.
they
You know,
did. Let's be fair here. They did. They tried. I
mhm.
look, one of the very first articles I ever had published in the Omaha World Herald, believe it or not, was after I came back from an auto show where the one of the featured vehicles in the auto show was BMW's very first hydrogen powered car. It was an internal combustion engine tuned to run off of hydrogen. So they've been trying this. They haven't, the BMW says, well, we're not going to give it up entirely. We're still going to, maybe play around with it on a side base, which I think is probably smart from an engineering perspective. Don't rule out, because maybe in the process you'll discover something that will make that process valuable to somebody at some point, maybe BMW or someone else.
Yeah. So in Germany, the average commercial truck drives in a trip drives an average of a whopping 96 kilometers. That's about 60 miles.
Yeah,
Okay. And in France, it's a little bit longer. It didn't say how much longer, but we're probably talking still less than 70 miles. And that's a
yeah,
space where electric
yeah.
really works well. And endless transcontinental long hauls is a niche within a niche. Most trucks aren't gliding across borders. They're schlepping gravel and groceries around the block. The big
Yeah.
trucks driving long distances do carry a large percentage of the freight. Yeah, you know,
Well,
it's interesting.
and I wonder, do you really want a, the English called them lorries, that you want an over-the-road truck with hydrogen stored on board going through the channel, right?
That's an
You
interesting point as well.
or do you want to do the same thing, because some of them are just put on ferries, they're put on ferries at Le Havre or wherever, and you want that on that boat. Now the case can be made, yeah, but do you want lithium batteries, on that boat or under the tunnel? So I would say between the two, I'm probably going to go with the lithium rather than the hydrogen.
Probably a bit safer. Probably a bit safer. Now we are here. We are talking about Europe. We're talking about France and Germany. So
Right.
in the United States, long haul trucking is a really big thing because our goods. The United States is a net importer of goods. Most of the goods come through Long Beach, California, and then they get trucked
or
to the rest
Juarez,
or
Mexico,
transported by
or
train to the rest of the United States.
yeah.
What's that?
I said or Juarez, Mexico, or some coming across the border,
Yeah,
from the El Paso and Brownsville and those areas.
right. But most of our goods are coming in through an entry port of some sort and being transported. And so our big trucks are being driven a lot more than in Europe.
But even in
You know,
those, didn't we talk about this before? But that's even That's a relatively small number, and I forget exactly now what it was, but we talked about there's a relatively small number of the vehicles that are actually, there's a lot of them, granted,
Right.
and you drive between here and Lincoln, you see, I don't know, hundreds of them. So, but that still is only a fraction of the number of uses that these trucks, most of them are, less than total loads, and they're all, operating out of the local bottle, the Dr. Pepper bottling plant over here,
Hmm.
and going around dropping, cans or bottles or whatever of soda.
Yeah, those need to be electrified, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It'd make a lot more sense. It'd be less expensive for the company, for the the bottling company, and it'd be less expensive, to operate, just
Yeah.
better for the environment. Maybe we get rid of
Court,
that little haze we have over Omaha.
Yeah, so of course the issue there becomes, they've got take a bottling plant, right? The over on 132nd Street, there's a Dr. Pepper bottling plant. Well, that's big flat roof and put solar panels up there, but because those trucks are out during the day and coming back and being parked at night, you've got to probably take and store that energy somehow, or you sell it to the grid and bank it in the local grid, and then you can pull, what your credits are, pull that out and charge them in the evening. So, that'd be a good question for you and Mike to talk about.
Yeah, it would be. It
Yeah,
would be. But
yeah,
anyways, the big news was France and Germany, their um, transport ministers are basically telling everybody, hey, give up on the hydrogen
yeah,
fantasy for long haul trucking. You just need to focus on, there's no sense in mandating hydrogen stations every 150 kilometers. Build what the market needs, and that's going to definitely be, electric. But I still I see the idea of using electric for long haul trucking. We know that that's having the right solution. Like I think the solution isn't charging. I think it's doing battery swaps.
yeah. We've
Okay,
talked about that before. Yeah.
and for the big trucks, it makes a whole lot more sense.
Speaking of which, keep going, but remind me to talk about Neo and cattle.
Okay, but I'm just saying that I think in that space, the battery swaps could be great for cars, but I think they have way more potential in the commercial space when you have these enormous batteries. They're going to take an hour to charge, even with 1,000-volt charging and
Right,
things like that. And then you can have all of those batteries that are there waiting to be swapped with trucks, storing energy for grid stability.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I mean, there's all kinds of pluses to that concept, that just straight trying to pull those transformers and have all that extra
yeah,
juice. I mean, you're still going to need the juice, okay?
yeah.
But with the batteries, you can load balance it much better, and you can also have a wind, solar farms and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm real big on the idea of swapping the batteries in the big trucks. I think that is a better solution than just having
And
two batteries in the truck with 1,000-volt chargers. I think you just have them pull through a little garage,
have a
kind of like a
rack.
giant
Yeah,
car wash. It swaps out the batteries. Takes like 5 minutes maybe. Truck's back on the road.
yeah, yeah. Not even time for the driver to go take a pee
Whole different,
and
um,
grab a drink. Yeah.
yeah,
So
whole different ball
anyway,
game.
yeah. Of course, we talk about cattle a lot with the giant Chinese battery manufacturer. And I just saw a story that they are taking an interest, and we're talking financial here, interest in Neo, which of course is the premier battery swapping EV maker in China at the moment. So something, I'm sure something's going to happen there, and it wouldn't surprise me to see that technology be applied to something like long distance
Well, when
trucks.
we look at Neo already having what, 3,000 battery
Yeah,
swap stations in China.
already. Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
3,000. I mean, you would think, they probably have like five or something like that, or
No,
10.
no, and they had
And
a whole. We mentioned they have a whole bunch in Europe now too.
yeah, I mean, it's really, the United States is just so far behind.
Yeah.
These technologies
Yeah.
just aren't coming to the United States with any speed. And people, they see some of this stuff, they think it's all brand new, and it's like, well, it's brand new to the US,
Yeah.
you know. And you
Yeah.
just look at
Here we
how
go.
some of
Always,
these,
the thing. We're always 10 years behind them.
yeah,
It's just it's sad. It's disappointing. It's not. I guess I just didn't do my job well enough over the last 20 plus years to encourage people to get up to speed on this stuff. Chinese listened. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. So we got this article about, is the Tesla Cybertruck the biggest automotive blunder in decades after the Ford Edsel?
Yeah.
It's a
Oh,
huge swing
sad.
and a huge miss. See, I'm not even familiar with the Edsel, so I can't even really
What?
comment on
Oh
that.
my God, you little child, you.
Yes.
The thing that, it was a nice car, The thing that I think ticked everybody off was the fact of its reference to a horse collar. Somewhere along the line, some designer, and this one, the car was named after one of Henry Ford's sons, Edsel. He was in fact the oldest, I believe, or something. That they designed this car and they're looking for a signature grille design, right?
Mhm.
You know a Volkswagen Beetle is a Volkswagen Beetle. They didn't change that thing for what, 80 years or something.
Right.
And a BMW generally because of the double kidney shape and so on. They were looking for a signature design for the Ford, and what did they come up with? What looks to be an old-fashioned horse collar, the thing you put around the horse, and then that's what the horse pulls against, because that's where you have the various straps and things hooked to that, and that's what it basically puts pressure on the horse's shoulder, and that's what they pull with. So this is somebody decided to take that shape, right, and put that on the front of the car, and of course that I can't see why that would have killed that car. And there probably were other things too about it, but that was the thing that got the most negative publicity, was putting that design of that horse collar on the front of the car.
Yeah. I'm not aware that I didn't know that Mitsubishi did battery pack swaps. Um,
Yeah, well, again, I mean, the whole idea, they even go back further than that. They were doing battery swaps on early taxis in Philadelphia. I think it was Philadelphia before the 20th century. They were doing this in the late 1880s, early 1900s, or 1800s. 1890s, sorry, 1880s and 1890s. They were doing battery swapping then. So it's not like it's a brand new idea. People have been trying it for decades. I
yeah,
think
that's
I
funny
think
to
I'm not
think.
mistaken. I think some of the early beer trucks in this country, because that's how a lot of the beer trucks early on were electric,
Hmm.
right? Because they didn't have powerful enough gasoline engines to pull a big heavy it looked like a wagon basically without the
Hmm.
horses to pull those. So they went to electric motors, and I think they did battery swapping on those beer trucks as well.
All right. Well, anyways, back to the Benzinga article. It's saying that the Cybertruck has been dubbed the auto industry's most significant flop in decades, according to a report. Let's see. Um, the Cybertruck is being added to a list of failures and included the Pontiac Aztek, the Edsel, and the Pinto. This is according to Forbes. Musk's angular pickup truck fell short of his ambitious sales target by a massive 84%, with no sign of a turnaround in sight. The vehicle sales have drastically underperformed Musk's predictions, and his quality reputation has been marred by 8 recalls within the past 13 months. Of course, we know a couple of those were actually something going on. Most of those were just software updates, but Despite Musk's ambitious forecast of 250,000 annual sales, they managed to just sell 40,000 last year for its first year on the market, and it's dipped by 13%. And
Yeah.
or no, it's dipped in 2025, helping contribute to the 13% decline in Tesla's sales in quarter one.
There was a guy
They,
that rented a Cybertruck just for the purpose of seeing how people reacted to him
Mhm.
driving it around. And he recorded, I don't know how many, I didn't bother reading the entire thing, but basically he was counting up how many people flipped him off
Mhm.
for driving
Well,
it, right?
where was he? That's a big part of it.
Well, yeah, probably on the East Coast or the West Coast, I'm guessing, you know. You don't see a lot of them here, but you know we have a few of them here. Again, it's somebody's preference. It ain't mine. And what's interesting is that video I was mentioning earlier. He talks about that all the really successful designs that were done on the Tesla cars, were done by what, von Holzen or something like that. And the first car that was designed by Elon Musk was the Tesla, or was not was the Cybertruck. And supposedly he designed it based on one of his kids' cartoon drawings or something. I don't know if that's true or not. But supposedly this was the first one where he was given a free hand in how he wanted the car to look, how he wanted the truck to look, and he got what he asked for.
You know, my thing with it, because you can call selling 40,000 in a year a failure. Um, we look at like so many other companies. What are we supposed to then say about some of these other folks that are newer in the space? That they're lucky if they can produce 100 cars a year yet, or like
Yeah.
Lucid, Rivian. They're certainly not up to 40,000 total vehicles a year yet. They're
Well,
getting
yeah,
there.
yeah.
I think they're going to get there.
But he said I have 1 million pre-orders, and now he can't sell them, and he's got to bring back 46,000 of them, something like that, to
Yeah,
fix the glue that failed on the car.
yeah.
This just, I mean, if you're not careful, you'll seriously injure yourself on that vehicle, just by the way it was designed and built. And you don't even have to hit anybody or get run over by it. Just handling, opening doors and closing the lids on things. Just you know, interesting design and certainly pushed the technology. With steer by wire and the 40-volt system. Those things like that are
Yeah, I've seen
really
lots of
cool
people
things.
post videos talking about, that they own them and they really love them. I
Well,
mean, one
sure,
of the
you'll.
people we've had on this show, he owns one and he's put over 40,000 miles on it already.
Well, good for
And
him.
it's his daily driver and it gets used. Apparently, it's used a lot if it's got that many miles on it.
Yeah.
And he just loves it.
Well, good.
And,
I wouldn't. I wouldn't have one if you gave it to me. Wouldn't.
well, there you go.
Yeah.
Might not fit in your garage. You never know.
Well, probably wouldn't fit in my garage either. Yeah, particularly since I've got two cars. By the way, if you're interested in a beautiful little low mileage, clean Fiat 500e, come talk to me. It's for sale. Oh, and by the way, the mileage on my Volt keeps going up. Remember how I said when I got it, it was like 170 miles at 100% state of charge. It's now up to 218. So we're getting there.
Oh, you've improved. You've improved.
Oh yeah, because it has to do with how you drive, right?
Makes
It's
you
all
wonder
in how
what the other person was doing that
he
had it.
didn't know what he was doing. My car, right? He was getting the lifetime use of that car. Is displayed on the car on the instrument panel is 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour.
Hmm.
My driving the car is 4.7, and I even once got it to 5
Oh, wow.
kilowatts. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So
that's
it all
very
depends on how
different
you
driving.
drive. Oh yeah.
But that probably means you drive a lot slower. You probably utilize the regenerative braking a lot
I
more.
use the regenerative brake. And interesting, I just learned something too, is that when you charge the battery up in the car, the regenerative braking isn't as regenerative because there's no place to put to put the voltage, right?
Hmm.
To put the electricity. So I have to drive the pack down some to give it room to put that in. But I thought, oh, that's an interesting thing. So in fact, what's so much fun about this car is that I'll drive it and I'll start off with some, let's say 165 miles or something, and I'll drive it 10 miles and I'll come back and I have used only. It looks like I've only driven 2 miles
Hmm.
because the regenerative braking and how you drive the car, and the car is learning how I drive, and the algorithm's adjusting to how I drive, and so yeah, it's really fun seeing it put. It's like putting gas back in my car as I'm driving. It's so much fun. It isn't what's
No, that, that
happening, of course,
that's
but
that's always pretty cool.
yeah, yeah,
Anyways, well, Bill, that's all we got time for today. Folks, we appreciate y'all
yep.
chiming in and
I have an
listening. And
appointment at State Farm. I'm going to go in to them, and they're going to put their dongle on my car. That's a beacon on my car. So I'm going to start testing this whole concept of collecting data on how I drive and that type of thing for a project that I'm working on. So anyway, so
I did that with Allstate in the past, where you had it on the connector underneath the
right, the OBD,
steering
yeah,
wheel,
yeah.
and I didn't feel it really added much, but it just gave a slight discount. It wasn't,
Well, yeah, well, I'm more interested in how it records my performance and things. And
you know. Anyways,
anyway,
all right,
all right.
folks. Thanks again. I'll be back tomorrow with our engineer Mike Herzog. Otherwise, have a great day.